Now there's a reason I'm coming to talk to you today. It seems that bad experiences were overruled by, good experiences. There were more bad experiences. So that's why I'm here to talk today a little bit about the designing for the experience of things. So the Internet of Things is quickly becoming part of our everyday life. We hear about connected light bulbs, smart refrigerators, censored socks, and that's censored with an S, not a C. And at first glance, we say, so what? But then as we dig deeper, we recognize that redesigning smoke alarms can save lives. Building these medical devices like an ear scope that can attach to an iPhone will help remotely diagnose ear infections and save the healthcare industry time and resources that is better spent elsewhere. And that sensor-based innovations are helping farmers grow more and better food. And so technology is making it possible. And I would say that it's up to us, the designers, the CEOs, the product managers, the users of technology, the users of things, to use that technology to create a better world. And so how do you design for the experience of things? I was an alpha tester of this product called Automatic. And it's a little box that you plug into the mechanic's port into your car. And what it does is it first can monitor your driving behaviors. It's Bluetooth low energy connected to an app on my phone. And it collects statistics about my driving. And so week to week, I get a driving score. And it tells me how much money I spent on fuel, how much I drove. It even tells me where I last parked my car. And that's interesting. But the other thing it can do is when the check engine light comes on in my car, I can actually now see the code that it's referring to, something that only a mechanic could do before, and I could really see, like, is this urgent? Do I have to bring this to the mechanic? It can help me understand what's happening with my car. And so there's a big vision here of creating better drivers, safer drivers, and better car and safer cars. But in that big vision, if you want to create this big vision, part of that is tending to and caring for the little details that make up that experience. And so as I was trying to I had to install this little thing into my car, and I don't really know all that much about cars. I'm under the steering wheel, and every car has this different, and I'm trying to figure out where to stick this little thing. And it was a great tutorial in the app, plug in the link, and it's showing me where. And then I can't really see, and I see on the screen, it says, oh, having trouble, here's a flashlight, and there's a flashlight button. Now my iPhone turns into a flashlight, helps me see where to plug this in, and then I'm off and running. It's some of those little details that are going to help not create the vision, but make the vision real and make these experiences possible. And so I found this quote about smart products and how a smart product conforms to us. And it instinctively conforms to us instead of us conforming to a product. So Dominic Wilcox was commissioned by the Global Footprint Project to create some shoes. And he thought about this problem in terms of, okay, here's, I'm in a new city, and I'm new to Chicago. Last night, I'm walking around with my iPhone, mapping out where I need to walk. And he thought about this problem, and he said, well, why don't I create some shoes that help solve some of that? When you're in a new city, you want to be looking around, and you want to see what's around you. And so he created these GPS-enabled shoes. You plug in the shoes via USB to your computer. You download the directions or the map of where you're going, and there's LEDs on the side and the tops of the shoes to tell you when to go straight and when to turn. Motion sensing trash cans. We had these in these little conference rooms at Jawbone. It's a great idea, right? You don't want to touch your hands full of gross trash, and you don't want to touch the trash can. But we had these in these small conference rooms, and every time someone walked to the whiteboard, the trash can opened. Did anyone ever test the rate of misfires of these trash cans? And I found this Amazon review that I had to share. It says, at first, because of where ours is located, we had quite a few accidental openings. But since we have gotten used to it, it is less of a problem. If you can put it in a location where you are less likely to set it off when you don't mean to, it would work better. So we are now conforming to our garbage cans. And one last example here is my Samsung washing machine. Something goes wrong and it flashes a code, D5. I'm like, A real person does not have, knowledge of what D5 is, doesn't know, my washing machine instructions are way upstairs. I mean, they're filed away. Either create this experience if you're going to have something go wrong with your washing machine. The machine has a speaker. It dings at me. Either tell me what's wrong, put the code somewhere on the washing machine so I understand what it is, or help me understand in real human kind of readable terms what D5 is. So the first thing in designing experiences is how do you create these products that conform to us? And that really means understanding the user. The second part, I would say, is once you understand the user, you have to think big. And you have to consider the whole system. Take parking. Parking is now, in San Francisco, a very proactive and connected experience, something that it wasn't before. I can now pay, each parking meter has a little code on it with a number, and I pull out my Pay by Phone app, and I can now put in the space, and I can automatically pay. I don't have to worry, do I have enough change? I don't have to run into the coffee shop while looking for the cops to know, I have to get change, and then I buy coffee that I don't want, and I can now pay by phone, and then my app is going to remind me when it's about to expire, and there's the potential to reload the machine without ever walking back to the car. So that whole experience has been rethought. Thinking about the system and thinking about all of the touch points between you, the product, between your product and the users is important. And Kindle has done a great job of this, right? You pick up, you start reading a book on one Kindle device, and you pick up another, and it seamlessly kind of knows where you last read to, and you can pick it up somewhere else. And then there are times when you can actually continue just in audio, and you don't even need, you don't even need to be reading. So Kindle's done a really good job about thinking about that whole experience and how it changes over time, over your day. And so consider all the touch points a user might have with your product to think about this bigger system. But also think about multi-user experiences. So Netflix just created these profiles. And so now I no longer need to get Sesame Street recommendations that my daughter might watch or Japanese anime that my husband might watch, right? I can create my own profile. And so things are getting smarter, but not smart enough. I still, when I sit in front of the TV, I need to tell it who is watching. And in an ideal world, it would be smart enough to know that I am watching, and it is Thursday night, and usually on Thursday nights I watch Downton Abbey, and so why doesn't it just show that to me? And if we think about the system of your product and how it lives, there's also now this world with connected devices of the ecosystem of devices. And so it's not just this one device. And this isn't something I'm going to get into today, but certainly there's a lot out there right now about data and open system versus closed systems. And Does your device, does your gadget, does your experience let a user pull in data from other devices to create one holistic device? Does it play well with others? And Rachel Kalmar, who's a data scientist at Misfit Wearables, who makes the Shine, I love this. She says, we're going to have the Google Internet of Things, the Apple Internet of Things, the Philips Internet of Things, right? And so this is a very big issue and a hot topic to consider. So as much as you need to think big, you also need to think small. And Dan Saffer wrote a book called Micro Interactions. And this is, what he defines a micro interaction to be is the things, the details that make up the small moments of your product. And sometimes it's really those details that create the product and the experience. The flashlight example is great. That feature, that moment of help for a user really opened up for me, like, just the thought that went into this. It doesn't make or break the product, but it really shows the thought that went into it and really helped me along the way to get started. So when you think about the small things, those micro interactions, one thing is the voice or the personality or the edge cases. And so here's an example. I clicked on my shopping cart on Zappos when it was empty, and it says, your shopping cart is empty, and it's a little sad. Its sole purpose in life is to hold all of the cool shoes, clothing, gadgets, and more that are available for you to buy. So someone has thought about these edge cases and how to help you back on track and add some whimsy and personality to it. And here's another one. If you go to hotel tonight and your hotels go on sale at noon, and I went there kind of early, and it says you can wait and watch the countdown just like New Year's Eve, right? So it's making fun, or it's making light, or it's helping you just easily get through to the next stage. The other thing I would ask is, of your product, how does it make you feel? How does it make your users feel? So Apple just went through this process of creating these manifestos, and there's written manifestos, and there's a video manifesto, and they're asking the same thing. What do you want people to feel with the things that you're creating? And in their video, they come out with certain things. They say delight and surprise and love and connection. And these, if you ask yourself what kinds of emotions we want our users to have, you can kind of hold those up as principles as you design your products to say, does this meet these goals? And so Google Glass is a great example. New technology, how do you want people to feel? And so I did a little exercise, and I created my own pair. Okay. And I just wanted to see, how does it feel to walk around and say, take a photo, or shoot video? And clearly, this isn't the right. These aren't doing what they should do. But it let me put myself in the shoes of a user and think about, well, what should I feel when I wear these, right? And I actually stood up in front of an audience like this, and I did this, and there's emotions, right? You want it to work, right? I wanted to feel empowered and in control and hands-free and privileged, because at that time it was like only certain people, Google Glass Explorers, could use them. So by defining some of those feelings, you can guide some of your product design. The other thing I would say is testing. So I came across a blog post, a post on Medium about user testing of vibrators, and I thought, if they can user test their product, so can you. I mean, they found a way, and it's important. And you can test your product as well. So when I was at Jawbone, we in the first original Jambox, we built into the design a way that when the battery starts getting low, it tells you, and it says, recharge battery now. Great idea, right? So you don't have to keep monitoring, like, is it low, is it low? It's going to tell me. But what we found after its release was we started getting complaints because people left them on all night, and you didn't have to turn the devices off. And so we got reports of like dogs barking, like, is there an intruder in the house? Because at 3 a.m. it says recharge battery now. Or if you change the voice to the rogue, it would say, recharge me or you will regret it, right? And so this deep voice in the middle of the night is freaking people out. So this is what I call the non-use case. What happens to devices when they're not in use? And we learned from that by testing it with real people, in real contexts, in real situations. As much as you can think about, okay, this is how our product is going to be used, there's always going to be things you don't expect. And I would say embrace and encourage the unexpected. So I've been using my Jawbone Up for over 2 years. And the Jawbone Up is touted as a fitness tracker, but a health lifestyle bracelet that tracks your sleep and your motion 24/7. And what we noticed, my husband and I have been using it for a while, and I'm on the left. What we noticed is my sleep patterns and his sleep patterns are very different. And so the tall bars are deep sleep. I go to sleep, and that's when I get my deep sleep. My deep sleep comes until about 3 a.m., and then I'm kind of in and out. He gets his deep sleep after 3 a.m. So we knew this before because he's the snoozer. I'm not the snoozer. Like he can, hit the alarm 5 times, and that just drives me crazy. But we understood from this that there's real differences in how people sleep. Like he needs that sleep because that's when he gets his deep sleep. And so by looking at our data, we figured out a system when our daughter was born. She's a year and a half, so we had this data before she was born. We took shifts. He let me get my deep sleep until 3 a.m. undisturbed, and then at 3 a.m. we would actually switch. We would switch rooms, so I would be closer to the baby, and he would get his deep sleep uninterrupted. And for the first few months, people were so surprised. We were not sleep deprived, and we were actually like normal human beings. And so it was a bit unexpected. Jawbone Up made us better parents. So it was much more than a fitness device for us. So I'll leave you with a few things here. I love this quote. Always design a thing by considering it in its next larger context: a chair in a room, a garbage can in a room, Google Glass in a public restaurant, and so on. And then I urge you, as you think about your products, whether it's hardware, software, digital, web, print, think big, but also think small, and then help us rethink our world to make it a better place. Thanks. There's a question in the front. Sander. Yep, it's coming.
So arguably, like you say, Jawbone Up made you exposed information that you didn't know. Maybe you knew intuitively, but you didn't know explicitly, and allowed you to change your behavior to become better. Well, let's just say better parents, because you said that. So, did Jawbone Design did they know about that use case? Did you know about that use case?
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's like a use case they never considered.
Now, does Jawbone obviously you took that story back to work. Do they use that now as part of?
They do, actually. There's like it was written up in a Wired magazine blog, and they use those now. These stories of real stories of like how people are using Up, incorporated in life that they never considered. So absolutely, they're like, wow, we didn't expect it, but let's build on it. I mean, and I think in the future, now that Up also has an open API, just talking about open and closed platforms, I think there's a wealth of things you can do with this data for parents or for certain types of people or situations. So they didn't know about it.
So it's easy for them to get that story because you work there. But how do you find the other stories like that from your customers or users that you may be deeper?
Great question. So at Jawbone, they created kind of a platform to get feedback, kind of like Jawbone Insiders. I mean, sometimes they have a way to collect feedback from a large range of people, and they're sort of self-selected, right? It's like if you like Jawbone, okay, I want to give feedback. But I think there's also going out there and talking to people, recruiting folks. You can you can always kind of get people who on Twitter or Facebook, are ways to recruit people that way. There are ways to go to second kind of independent firms and say, can you find this kind of people who have fitness trackers, and not in San Francisco or not in the Bay Area or not in Chicago where it could be very tech heavy. Let's look somewhere else and try and get feedback. Oh, there's a question way in the back, around the side.
So this might be a little lofty or philosophical or something, but I'm wondering, well, when you spoke about Netflix and how this is an improvement, but your TV should really just know what you watch on Thursday nights, I'm wondering if what your thinking is on the idea that we're like getting to a point where everything just knows what we like, and there's sort of like so little room for us to stumble upon something new. I feel like when the world was harder to navigate, there was more randomness and more like other people's likes in your life, not just your own. Should we be like building that sort of stuff into our design, or should we be living on a commune somewhere?
Yeah. So that's great. I heard Genevieve Bell, head of design and the research laboratories at Intel, speak a couple weeks ago, and I loved it because she was talking a lot about that. Right? We've built all these smart algorithms, so it's like, give me more of what I like. Similar. At some point, you just want surprise me, right? And so how do you build that exactly? Like, we're all building the same, but sometimes you want different. And she also talked about kind of architecting for delight, and I think that's what you're saying too, right? Like how everything knows. If you get one part of that algorithm wrong, or one part of that cog, like connected piece wrong, then are you doomed? Right? And so I think it's a hard question, and I don't know the answer, but I thought that was really interesting to think of, that maybe we should be creating exact opposite algorithms, right? Or I don't know.
So I think you strike kind of an interesting balance, because there's the desire to have something that's more of a platform, so that like when you talk about your Jawbone Up, like it's a platform, so it lets you discover something like that because it's not prescriptive in how you're going to use that sleep data. And yet there's the other side of that, of the non-technical users being overwhelmed by the ability to do anything in your platform or application, whatever it happens to be. So how do you kind of strike that balance? Because you mentioned like the D5 showing up on your washer, but I also know that my parents, if you put all of the possible error codes on a washer, they would have a heart attack because they'd have no idea what to do with all that information. So how do you kind of balance the desire to give people more power with what you're building them, but not overwhelming them with how much you're giving them?
I think for each situation and product and experience, you do want that like one use case that's going to pull people in. Like, so not to say people have to be overwhelmed with codes or data or everything being connected, but technology can help in a lot of ways. And so how do you simply start with a simple use case? So like my mom, she would never, like she doesn't have an iPhone, she doesn't know, but a pedometer that just, she can hook on and she could just see how much she walked today. It doesn't even matter really if it tracks her history over time and shows her good graphs and whatever. It's more information than she had before, and then that's the first step, and then maybe the next step, and it kind of goes from there. So I think you don't have to do everything at once, but find one key thing you can change or help with and start there.